All right, so my name is TJ, and I have made $1 million by the age of 24 with an online business, and I have just recently shut down this business to go all in on a brand new business. So this video here is to explain to you basically, where did I come from? How did I make my first $1 million? And why am I shutting down this business? And what the future for myself obviously looks like, right? So jumping straight into the video, I wanted to give you guys some context for who I am and like how I even was able to build an online business in the first place, okay? So I'm obviously Vietnamese, right? If you haven't learned from my last name, but I basically grew up with a single immigrant mother, right? So my parents came over to America when they were pretty young. They got married pretty early, and unfortunately, my father ended up leaving my family when I was about 4 years old. So one of my main inspirations for starting my business and getting into entrepreneurship so early on was because in between about the age of 4 to 7 years old, my mom moved out of my father's house with literally $500 in the bank, right? And she had 2 kids. And so during this time period, she put that $500 down towards the deposit, and that was it. Like, she had no more money after that, and me and my sister and my mom were just basically all alone. And so I think anyone who has kind of grown up in that type of environment can kind of relate, or if they've struggled a little bit, but it was a very difficult time. I saw my mom cry a lot and just break down in tears when in her own room, away from me and my sister, to obviously keep a poker face around us to make sure that we felt like we were okay. But deep down, she knew everything was kind of crashing and crumbling down around her, because she actually got laid off during that time period, and by the grace of God, she actually found another job to be able to supplement and take care of me and my sister, right? So this time period, we moved into a really shitty apartment, to say the least, right? This apartment had a lot of problems over the 3 years that we were there that I still vividly remember really well. One time we had a flood in our house. The whole place was just flooded out. All of our furniture was destroyed, and she obviously had to deal with that on her own. We had rats in our house, and we had termites, and it was just a regular apartment that wasn't that well upkept, but that was just kind of our living conditions that I grew up in as a kid. So growing up, my mom always had to budget and, not really be able to afford the finer things. I'm extremely blessed to say that I never went homeless, and that my mom always made sure that I had clothes on my back and a roof over my head, and she was able to take care of me through thick and thin. But she would work 7 days a week, working 10 hours a day, just to make ends meet, right? And so seeing her go through that just very much motivated me a lot when I was a kid, right? Because I would see her wake up every single day and just put in that work. And so, basically after high school, right, I didn't have any money to really go to school, right? I went to school and decided that I didn't want to go to college, but I didn't really have any other alternative routes at the time. So I ended up going and getting a 9-to-5 at Costco. And I actually ended up working there for a couple years, right? But the crazy part was when I got to this job, and this was fresh out of high school, I was in this situation where they told me that it would take me 20 years to make $100,000 in a year. And I knew at that moment, I was all right, bro, you're gonna do this for a little bit, but this isn't gonna cut it, because I want to be able to take care of my mom. I want to be able to retire her. I want to be able to live a certain lifestyle, and this vehicle here is good for what it is right now, but it's really not gonna get me to where I want to go. And I had a lot of social pressures to want to go to college. My uncles and my other people in my life were telling me to go ahead and go to college, but I've always been a very hard-headed person. So I was no, screw that. I'm gonna find another way to go ahead and find a solution to this problem that I was in, right? This money problem that I was in. So with all of that struggle, I did what anyone else would typically end up doing during that time period. Was I was always into wanting to learn how to make money, right? I was like, when I was 16, I was looking into trading. I was looking into ways that I could start up side hustles and things like that. And long story short, I ended up running across a Tai Lopez ad, right? And it was the start of everything. So I ended up watching like a 3-4 hour long video where it ended up going through the whole SMMA business model. And long story short, I ended up buying a $1,000 course, and that's kind of where the beginning of my journey started, right? So I ended up, working part-time at this 9 to 5 at Costco, almost full-time too. So I would work, and then on the side, I was studying SMMA, and I took my first course. And on the weekends, what I learned from this course was how to set up the business, but on top of that, be able to just go out to local businesses, knock on their doors, and ask them if they wanted advertising services. And so I literally just took the information and applied it, and just started door knocking on every single local business that's out there. So, and I grew up in the state of Washington, and in Washington, there's this very long highway that goes up north and south called Highway 99, and it basically goes from Canada all the way down to California. So like it can kind of help you get there once you get on the freeways and stuff like that. But I digress. So on this freeway, I would go to every single local business. I literally walked into pizza shops. I walked into nail salons, bro. I walked into bars, any type of business that was on there, I would walk into. And I kind of got some momentum because people were interested in the advertising services that I was offering, because from the course I learned how to run Facebook ads, right? And at the time, back in 2019, Facebook ads weren't big at all, right? It was still very brand new. And at the time of recording this, it being 2025, it's not brand new at all. It's like the most common thing nowadays. But that was where my start was. And my first client that I ever actually ended up landing ended up being a car dealership, right? So I got paid a $300 check, and I remembered, bro, it took me 4 or 5, maybe 6 months to land my first client, because I was only doing this part-time. I wasn't doing it full-time. I wasn't fully bought into it. And when I got that first check, I'm telling you, my mindset shifted, because part of me almost didn't believe that making money online was real, or this whole SMMA digital marketing essence was a real business. And I actually kind of stumbled a lot through this entire process, because I had no business acumen, I had no business background, and I didn't know anyone that ran a business at all, right? So I saw my first taste of success. They paid me $300 and to run their Facebook ads. Most of it actually went towards the ad spend. But I got paid, and it wasn't from my 9 to 5. So this to me was oh my gosh, right? So it was really exciting. I ended up landing that client. It was a small dealership. It was raining. I was just walking in and was like, hey, do you want to hear about my marketing services? And this is where I kind of grew my teeth, right? I was door knocking, and I didn't know that it was sales at the time, but I just had the courage to walk in there and was like, hey, I have these marketing services. Would you like to hear about them? And I would set appointments, and I'd sit down, and I did that hundreds and hundreds of times during that a 2-year time period. So I landed my first client. Long story short, I ran my first few Facebook ads, and I'm taking an extra few courses here and there. I took 3 courses during that time period, and long story short, my first client, I didn't know how to get them any results, right? So I did that for basically almost 9 clients. So imagine signing 9 clients, and then you shit the bed, and none of them get results. Because number one, I didn't know anything I was doing. I didn't know how to run an ad. I didn't even know what leads were. I didn't even know that you had to fucking call leads, bro. I did no sort of sales or anything in the past. So I ended up landing 9 car dealerships, and I believe it was the 6th or 7th car dealership that I ended up working with that I actually got results for, because during that 2-year time period, I tried doing it myself without much experience running Facebook ads, and then I tried partnering up with somebody to help me run their Facebook ads, and then finally, last but not least, I ended up investing $2,500 into another course and mentor where they taught me how to run ads specifically for car dealerships, and that's when things kind of started clicking together, right? So during that time period, you know, things were kind of moving, they were kind of shaking, right? And it was great because I was like, okay, cool. This thing that like I actually invested time and energy into was actually working, right? And so, like, with me getting to the point where I was finally getting some sort of results, I just wanted to keep going. So I remember the next mentor I ended up investing into was an actual coach, right? He was a coach, he was a business coach. And fuck, I was watching him on YouTube and I didn't know anything about the guy. But I remember getting on the phone with him and I just knew that he knew how to run a business because he was, I think, 21 years old and I was like 19 at the time, and he was already making like $100,000 a month, and I was like, how the heck is that even possible? I ended up getting on a call with this guy and I pay him $5,000, and mind you, I didn't even have the $5,000. I ended up having to split it up into 2 different payments to actually even do it. But he started telling me to start posting about my stuff online. So I started posting about the knowledge that I ended up learning about Facebook ads onto Facebook. And then, you know, long story short, I kept posting and reaching out to people. And as I kind of started helping car dealerships, the most that I ever really got it up to was like $3,000 or $4,000 a month from reoccurring, until I ran out of people to reach out to. Because over this span of 2 years, I literally drove 100 miles. I drove 100 miles, bro. Like, every single car dealership in the state of Washington, they probably see my face at least once or twice. So at that point, I ran out of people to meet in person. And then I also, there's a very limited amount of people on Facebook groups for car dealerships. So I ended up running out of people to sell to on Facebook, on Facebook as well. So what I ended up pivoting towards, because I had this bright idea when I was turning 21, I went through this bad breakup where it made me quit my job and go all in. So this was right around September of 2021 was when I went through this breakup. I quit my job and was like, all right, screw it. Like, over this time period, I've already seen some sort of success. I was at the time maybe getting paid like $1,500 or $700 a month from my agency, and I just jumped all in. I just didn't really think too much about it. So when I jumped all in with my business, what ended up happening was I grew, right? And when I had this bright idea on my birthday, I was thinking like, oh yeah, there's a lot of car salespeople in these Facebook groups, but there's not a lot of car dealerships. What if I could come up with a program that could help car salespeople, you know, generate leads? So I kind of ended up going through this next phase where this was kind of when things started to click together, right? I learned how to make an offer. I started reading Hormozi books. I worked with my mentors. I learned how to sell via Zoom. I learned like all these little like tactics that kind of helped me put together an outreach process, a sales process, and a delivery process. Hey, mind you, I've never sold cars before, so like this whole process for me was so foreign. It was so uncomfortable. I didn't really know what I was doing, because if I were to go back, I know what I would do now, because, you know, I didn't have the right skill sets, and I thought it was like the business model or whatever. But so I was getting some momentum selling some car salespeople. So in 2020, going into 2022, the April of that year was when I hit my first $10,000 month. And so that came from learning how to sell, learning how to prospect, learning how to create an offer. And that's when I kind of came up with this whole idea of like, oh, like I learned how to run Facebook ads. I learned how to generate leads for car dealerships. And now I show salespeople how to do the same thing. I now just learned the skill, and now I'm consulting and teaching other people how to do what I ended up doing, right? So rather than charging these car salespeople a monthly retainer, I would just charge them $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. It ended up raising the price over time. But I would end up charging to teach them marketing services, and people would actually pay me. And so, yeah, like I hit my first $10,000 month, and then like I was basically pretty consistent around making 10K a month, right? And I believe my best month when I was just doing cold outreach and just DMing people on Facebook and through Facebook groups and just posting content consistently, I think my best month was about 15K, right? But long story short, I got stuck doing that. And it felt great because I felt like I was growing. I went through like a season of growth. I developed my mindset. I became a different character. I was a lot more consistent, disciplined. I just went through a whole transformation during this time period where I went from some kid working a 9 to 5 who came from like this single poor like immigrant background with no guidance, no mentorship, no nothing, and just kind of felt my way through the dark. So that's basically been my whole entrepreneurial journey up until this point. Fuck, dude, like I didn't even know that you had to call leads. Like it was that bad. So I went through this entire process and this entire journey, and I got stuck around that 10, 15K a month. And then I ended up investing into another mentor that taught me how to run ads. I started running ads to the content that I was creating, and then quickly the next month, boom, I was able to start hitting 30K months. And then going into the next year of 2023 was when I really took off, right? So in 2023, I think that year we made about $423,000, right? And so mind you, I was 22, turning 23 at that time. I'm running this successful business. I've grown it, I've scaled it. I started hiring people within my business, and things were looking great, right? But what ended up happening was throughout the rest of 2023 was when I actually moved out from my hometown and actually moved away from my mom. You know, my life changed drastically. I was able to take my mom out, take care of her, and do all these other things. But I moved out, got my own place with some friends. I actually started dating my now current partner, Lena, who we now have a great relationship. And my life kind of just started changing, but my business kind of started tapering off towards the end of 2023. I think our best month in 2023 was about $60,000 or something like that. But mind you, in the beginning, I was around like 30, 40K months, right? So my business didn't grow that much more drastically. But going from the end of 2023, my life was changing, and I was kind of going through a season of growth and maturing a bit more and having other things within my life that I cared more about than business. And then 2024 came around. So last year, right? And in the beginning, when I was getting started, this whole journey was about me being like very bought into wanting to help people. Like my transformation, I was helping people with their mindset, helping people with their skill set, and helping people develop and grow and change their life. And I really enjoyed that. And that's where my intention was in the beginning. I poured a lot of time and energy into the business. But as time kind of progressed, I just got very money hungry. You know, I'm a little bit like ashamed or embarrassed to say that, but like that's kind of where my heart was at, right? Going into 2024, my whole mindset going into 2024 was, how can I scale this? So in 2024, like I invested into another mentorship, and this one taught me how to run, how to build a funnel, how to build an email sequence, how to build a sales team, SOPs, systems, automations, all these other things that I needed to grow and scale my business. But it kind of started feeling a bit coming from the wrong intention. And so I was trying to grow, I was forcing it to grow. And like during this time period, dude, I was spending like, there were some months where I was spending like $20,000 a month on advertising and only making them back like $40,000 or $50,000, barely seeing a 2x ROAS, right? And it was all for like vanity reasons to want to like hit, you know, my $100,000 months or be a 7-figure entrepreneur or whatever, right? And it became this monster that I ended up hating because it was stressful. I had a bunch of clients that weren't happy. It became less about serving people, and the business, unfortunately, was just not like serving people like the original intention, right? So in 2024, I actually lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of money, spent a lot of time on the wrong things, and my business just felt so forced, and I just felt so burnt out. And it kind of came down to the point where, if I were to get a little bit more specific with what happened in 2024, so in 2024, I invested into the coach between January, February, and then March. March was when I hired my first sales team. So I got 2 closers and four setters. So I grew fast. I had 6 salespeople, and I never ran a sales team before. So from March April, June, and July were 4 really freaking hard months for me. I ended up spending, like I said, $15,000-$20,000 every single month. And I think our best month, we only ever made like $68,000, right? And we're spending like this egregious amount of money on the front end. And then obviously you have your team payouts and everything like that. I think I was operating below like even a 30% margin. I was like below that at some points, right? And it was just a beast to handle. And I had so many clients that wanted to charge back or refund because I was charging like $5,000 when I was providing like a minimal amount of value on the back end because of the business model or the clients that I chose to serve at that time. So in July, I fired my sales team because I just bled so much money. I had to dip into savings. Bro, I had to dip into like $30,000 worth of like investments that I had to take out just to pay off like ad spend type of stuff. And it was kind of crazy. It was very stressful. I never went through that before, but you know, it was difficult to go through. But in August, I rebounded, and going into September, I was trying to transition more into helping car dealerships again, right? Because helping car salespeople wasn't working out as much, and I figured out that if I just worked with a better customer avatar, then my business could grow again. But I actually ended up partnering up with a friend of mine who ran a sales agency who helped, you know, train closers and place everybody. And I was thinking, maybe I can give it another go and see if like it'll work, right? And at this point, you know, I wasn't posting content consistently. I wasn't in love with what I was doing. Everything felt very forced. And so I had October, November, December, and almost the beginning of January in 2025, I reran trying to grow up and scale a sales team again. And I had all these huge dreams and aspirations for what I wanted to do with this business. But it was in the name of wanting to make more money and be very status and ego driven, to be completely honest with you. And that's where I knew like the TJ that wanted to start this business to take care of his mom and take care of people and like help others just kind of started transforming into like this like hedonistic business that just fed my ego and like the numbers and like being able to say that. But the worst part is my business didn't even grow. And so that kind of led me to a point where, you know, I felt pretty burnt out. And What's interesting is the beginning of January, going into January, I had to fire my sales team once again, right? So I'm all over from scratch. I actually had less money in the bank account because I was running all these different ads. So 2024 was an extremely hard year for me, and I feel like it happened for a reason. So in 2024, of April 14th, I gave my life to Christ, and I got baptized, right? And so as I have been growing my relationship through Christ, I feel like I went through that season for a reason, right? So I think that part of my growth was held back and it felt forced because I think deep down, knowing where my intention was with business, I think business and spiritual gain and wealth gain is a spiritual game, right? So I think like business became my idol. Like business became what I ended up chasing, thinking about, and like I didn't want to give anything up for my business. And so throughout this time period, I'm sacrificing my well-being, my health, my relationships, my money, like just everything was on the line to try and grow this business. And it felt so draining because I was giving it everything and it wouldn't grow. And so the reason why I mentioned that I got baptized in April 14th of 2024 is because I believe Christ was working through me throughout this entire year to kind of like beat me down. Because like I'm very, like I said, very hard-headed. And I didn't really know when to quit. And so I felt like I kind of stumbled into this, but I wanted to embrace it fully, but it never felt aligned because like I told you from the beginning, there's one thing that's always resonated with me is because I'm serving people that I never really was. So I don't really get them. I don't really understand my customer avatar to the deepest level because I wasn't ever really in their shoes, right? So I'm trying to grow and scale this business, so I'm not really serving these people. Yeah, we have results. Yeah, we had, you know, people that were happy with our program, but it wasn't really to the level that I knew that I could help other people, because I grew so much as a CEO over the last 3 years of my career of being able to take this business very seriously. And so I think God had to beat me down all of 2024 so that I could feel like worn out, right? And I remember at the beginning of 2025, I had this huge grandiose plan that was in my own eyes like what I wanted, what I was putting out into the world, because I'm like, you know what, I did this through my own great trials and tribulations, and I was the one who was able to do this, when in reality, Christ gave me all of this, and none of it was, I did the work, but he blessed me with the opportunity. So Russell Brunson said something really interesting. God kind of tricks you to get into business to see that if you want to make money, but then once you start making money, you kind of learn that it's not what it's all about. So in the beginning of this year, I had a epiphany moment where I felt like a little distant from God. I felt like I sat down and I prayed, and I felt like his presence, I hadn't been with him in a while, and I hadn't had a really good relationship that I was maintaining with him. And I sat down, and when I prayed about it, I asked, hey God, like, why do I feel very distant from you right now? And long story short, what I walked away from that prayer was that I wasn't an obedient child. And I was like, interesting. Like, I'm not an obedient child. And like, I kind of already told you guys, I'm a hard-headed individual, right? And he was like, you don't pour into my relationship, you don't follow me, you don't listen to me, therefore I'm not close to you. So I'm going through that, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, okay, let me see how I can work on that. So I start working on that, and this is the first week of January, right? So the first week of January, I actually end up going to church the next 2 weeks. And lo and behold, the topic over the next 2 weeks was about surrendering. It's the first time I've ever heard this word, at least in a biblical context. Very interesting. And so I go to these 2 sermons, and it kind of collates back to this whole idea of me being obedient. Surrendering is being obedient to the word of God and what he puts into your heart, and listening to it, and working in blind faith, even if it doesn't make sense. And so over the beginning of January, my faith has been extremely stretched and tested during this time period, and it's one of the most uncomfortable seasons I've ever been in my entire life, but I've been staying faithful to what has been put into my heart. So over the next two weeks, I go to church, and my pastors are talking about true discipleship, true surrendering, and I really was battling with that, because growing up without a father, without somebody who was guiding me, without somebody telling me what to do or to put me into my place. I mean, a mother can only do so much, but I grew up with just a mom, and I was very hard-headed. So I felt like I am the man of the household. I run this. I'm in control. I do everything from A to Z, and I call the shots around here. And so I had a really hard time being submissive towards the Lord and what he put in towards my heart. And so because I had that mindset, feeling like I want to just let God guide me in my life and in my business was very uncomfortable, because I was just chasing it, and everything that I did up until that point was based off of my own intuition and what I thought it was right. And I felt like I got the success because of me and the work that I put in, right? But the craziest thing ended up happening was after the second sermon, where the first 3 weeks of January was about surrendering, discipleship, listening to God, and just following him, and not questioning him, and being submissive towards him. Again, this is a very strange concept for me. The craziest thing happens after the third week of January, the second sermon that I attended about surrendering to God. So me and my friend end up going to this cafe, and we sit down, and we're getting lunch after church, and we're talking about business. I'm talking about this huge plan that I have this year about becoming the face of marketing for automotive, and like I'm starting the second YouTube channel, and I wanted to grow this separate page so that I can help other people that are in the same wavelength as me. And eventually I knew that one day I wanted to go and serve people that were like me, because I'm an online marketer, I'm an online individual, and I came from this world, and I just want helping that. But this is making me money right now, so like I'm gonna keep building this too, and I'm gonna document me building this and then putting it online. So that was kind of my goal, and I was kind of speaking about it. And that was like I planned that in December and most of November. So like I was already prepped for all of 2025. It was going to be the best year for my automotive business that I've ever had in my entire life. But what ended up happening was there was a girl, okay? This girl walks up to me, and you can imagine this for just a second. She was a little bit shaking, and she was just sitting across the table from like across a few tables over, and she comes up, she's shaking a little bit, and she says, "Hey, can I share something with you that I feel like God put in my heart?" I look over at my friend, I'm like, "Yeah, of course, yeah, go ahead." And she knows nothing about me. She doesn't know who I am, what I do, anything about my business, or anything about my previous life or anything like this. And God works in interesting ways, and I know that this was an act of God. She walks up to me and says, "Hey, I wanted to share something with you that God put in my heart, and He told me to tell you that there is a huge, big season of growth waiting for you, okay? And He knows where your heart's at. He knows you've been trying. He knows that you've been pouring your heart and soul into this, and that you have a good heart. But the Lord wants you to surrender to Him." And when I told you, my heart sank that day. My heart sank because in that moment, I was like, this is it. Like, I've been like holding on to this business, holding on to this identity that I created for myself, of who I said I was and who I became over the last 3 years, and this journey that I've gone through, and the person that I am. And all of a sudden, I had as clear as day. God was like, "Give this to me. Give it up." And it hit like a bag of rocks. I ended up going home that day, and I remember tearing up in the car because I was like, "God, like, hey, like, man, I just worked my tail off over the last 3 years, like going through this, and this is what's provided for my family. This is what's created this transformation and this change. And is this really what you want? Like, is this really what you want?" And I remember battling with that for over like 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. And I'm like debating through this whole like process of like, well, do I keep the business? Do I not keep the business? Maybe like I can just start working with car dealerships and stop working with car salespeople, and I can just keep scaling up the agency and then document that and grow my following along the way. And I kind of was wrestling with that for a while, and I was documenting, I was recording for a whole week. I was going to start posting. I had a whole second YouTube channel dedicated towards this, and I was going. And then I was sitting down 6 days later after this happened. I'm writing out my dream life that God, like I asked God, give me a vision. I wrote out that dream life, and just like that again, it hit me again where it's like, hey, I told you, I want you to give up. I want you to submit to me. And it was so crazy because I was like, man, like this is so scary for me, but God, I trust you. And like I was telling you, my faith had been extremely stretched through this series, and I know that He's putting me through the fire right now to test how faithful I am towards Him. And like it felt like in that moment too, like it was very black and white. Like God can communicate in like different nudges and give you like different types of like pulls towards different directions, but this one was as clear as day. It was like, hey, you either listen to me this time, TJ, or you don't. Because while I've been running this business, this wasn't the first time I've had this thought. I've actually wanted to quit this business before, but I decided to keep going head on, and I was just so afraid to let go because I didn't know Christ the way that I had Christ now. But it just makes so much more sense and from a biblical perspective because of the relationship that I've developed with Him since I gave my life to Him. And so I was like, you know what, God, whatever you have in store for me, like, let's do it. Okay, like I'm all in. Like whatever you want from me, dude, like I'll give it up to you. So I made that decision that day to let go of my team and let everyone know who I was working with that I was going to be transitioning out of this business and that I was going to no longer serve this industry. And at the time, like I thought all of these conversations were going to go terrible, right? I thought my partner was going to be frustrated with me. I thought my team members were going to be frustrated with me. I thought my clients were going to be frustrated with me, wanting refunds or like knocking at my doorstep, being all angry with pitchforks and, you know, torches and stuff like that. But I was like, hey, God, I'm just listening to you and I'm following through with you and I'm very scared. This isn't what I necessarily think is right to do, but I will follow you regardless if it makes sense or not. And I've been walking with extreme blind faith through this entire series. So I ended up letting my ego down, following God, and, you know, I ended up quitting my business. So it's the start of a new era. I quit my business, and then after I posted a video on my Instagram, and I've recently been posting on my Instagram again really consistently, and I'm really excited because like now I feel like I am in alignment with who God called me to be in the beginning. And so I ended up quitting this business in the beginning of February, the first week of February, and I transitioned out of the business a bit. And now I've been working on building up this new business. So I thought when I posted, people were going to be like, oh, TJ, this is terrible. Like, you know, again, I thought I wasn't going to be received well. Again, God's been working through so many different ways that I haven't been even capable of understanding, but I just know he's like reworking, reshaping me and creating a new identity. So I ended up going on a week vacation to LA, came back for a Funnel Hacking Live event. So this Funnel Hacking Live event was where Russell Brunson, Myron Goldman, and all these fantastic, wonderful speakers were up on stage. Tony Robbins, I got to see him in person. And the craziest thing that like I ended up walking away with, I feel like God was, again, still working with me through this entire process, is they all talked about creating an identity. And I feel like that was one thing that I've kind of lost over this last 3 years. I kind of got lost in this money, and I haven't been in alignment with who I need to be, and I haven't been developing myself, I haven't been improving, and therefore I haven't been serving God's purpose. And Russell Brunson, when I went to the first day of Funnel Hacking Live, said something so profound. I have it in my written down in my notebook. He said, in the beginning, God tricks you to get started, and he thinks he kind of like tricks you with money. And when you start making money, you kind of realize that it's not all about money. And so I've gone through this transformation over the last 3 years of running this business full time, technically 5 years because I started when I was 19. And I became this man that like now a lot of people could look at and want what I have now, which is, you know, have made $1 million online and working from anywhere, having a great relationship, being able to take care of my family, my friends, and having this business that ultimately serves other people. And so Russell said you first go through the transformation and you create a leap and a transformation. And then once you go through the transformation, it's your time to go ahead and find who it is you're called to serve. So there's two times that you're born in life. It's when you're actually born into this world, and then the second time you're born is when you find your purpose. And I feel like this season is me finding who I'm meant to serve, who I'm meant to help. And that has been deeply rooted into my heart from day one. And I'm looking forward to just serving as many people as possible, creating as much impact as possible, changing as many lives as possible, and giving my heart and soul to everything, just as Christ did, and as Christ led me to go through this. And it's been uncomfortable for me, but I feel like everything that I am working towards right now is what God called me to do. And it's not from my own intuition. I don't know like what I'm doing right now. I don't know what I'm going through. Like it's a very scary, uncomfortable season for me, but I have faith. I let go of a $50,000-$60,000 a month business, dozens of employees, dozens of clients, and now I am restarting from square zero, right? Brand new offer, brand new everything. So I've now been posting content, and I'm now getting back in the saddle and now wanting to present to you guys a new series that I'm going to be calling Life by Design. So Life by Design was actually supposed to be what I was going to start, but now it's actually going to be in the right context rather than me doing the business that I wasn't actually, you know, really able to build properly. But this time since I'm restarting from scratch, I want to build with you. I want to show you what it's like, what my thought process is like, how I go through actually building everything from complete scratch. And this time I wanted to make this series a lot less about actually being money driven, being ego driven. I wanted to genuinely serve you, and I just want to be your friend. Like, I want to be like your brother, your big brother that has already ate a lot of shit, so that I could share with you what not to do, and actually what mistakes that you can avoid along this journey. And I want to go back to developing myself so I can keep serving more of you guys, and serving you specifically, because the more that I improve myself, the more that you can look up to me and be like, okay, hey, I want to be more like this individual, or whatever character traits that I have that you admire, and you acquire them, and you can get more of the results that I have. And I truly want to create that transformation for you, because that transformation I made in my life has been absolutely phenomenal, and I'm fanatic about it. I love it. I love what I do. I love the life that I get to live. I'm extremely, extremely, extremely blessed. And I feel like now things are lining up, and I have the opportunity to go ahead and create a new level within my business. So what am I moving forward towards now? Well, like I said, so I'm building this brand new business from complete scratch. And you know, I'm looking for people that I'm truly trying to serve. So God put it in my heart that I just need to help beginners, right? Like, I don't know why that's what he put in my heart, but that's what he told me to do. You know, I could easily right now go and charge $10,000 to $15,000 to other coaches or consultants, because I have $1 million skill set. I'm very good at building teams and building systems into businesses. But, you know, the amount of impact that I feel like I'm really going to have is really helping you going from like 0 to 10, 20, 30K a month, and profiting a lot of that, because that's when the biggest change in my life happened. And so I want this to be less about money, and I want this to be just who I was 5 years ago when I was 19. TJ, who was just starting out, I want to be able to deliver value to that version of myself, and walk along with you along this business, because now that you get the opportunity to see me go through this again, I want to show the behinds and show you like what I'm truly working towards this year. So the Life by Design project is something that I have in my mind that is a holistic approach and a holistic view to living life. It just isn't just about business, but it's about striving towards being the best version of yourself possible. So therefore, you know, obviously we have financial goals, but there's things like physical goals, hard skills, soft skills, spiritual goals, romantic, wealth, relationships. And I want to share with you those goals, and kind of share with you guys where I'm going to be going, and what my goals are to create that lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, this is going to be a series that I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be able to vlog with you, share my life with you, be close with you, and nurture you, and like be able to develop you, and share the thoughts, the trials, the tribulations, the celebrations, everything that comes in between with life. And so at this point in time, you know, just to have this series be a little bit more raw, a little bit more unfiltered, and kind of let you guys know what I'm working toward in general. At this point in time, I'm trying to create a higher version of myself right now. I mean, it's just kind of the season that I'm in, being more disciplined, more consistent, creating a better version of myself, being able to speak better, being able to develop myself more, being better at content, being able to be more consistent online again. And so, yeah, I mean, my goal lifestyle, just so you guys can kind of know about this right now, and I'm going to try and figure out the best way to kind of like put this into a fun, entertaining way to watch it. But my goal is to be as raw and unfiltered as possible, so that you guys really get the real side of building a business. Because I feel like the other thing about the online space right now is that like too many people feel like they're it's like a self-worship thing. Like their brands become a self-worship type of thing, but I don't want it to be that. I want you guys to know that all the glory goes to God with whatever successes that I have within my life, and that I wouldn't be here without him. So here's the overview of where I'm working towards in my life right now. And obviously at the age of 24, my next kind of milestone is about the age of 30. And I'm going to be breaking these big goals down into smaller chunks as I go along the way. But just so you guys have a big overview right now. So my financial goal right now is to be making $3 million a year in profit being the main point here, and more importantly, having like impact. So with the business that I'm starting out with right now, I'm spending the time to invest into my brand and investing into actually serving others through my content, and starting with people that are, you know, curious about the marketplace or curious about starting a business online, because I eventually want to create my own marketplace, and I want to create this whole community where you could start with the roadmap that I went down scale with me and eventually maybe partner up with me, or be able to join some of my different memberships, or being able to go to some of my live events, get some of the awards, and create this amazing, beautiful community where we uplift others and develop ourselves to be better men and better people and better individuals overall. So when I say impact, that's what that looks like to me. And my goal over the next 6 years is to be able to at least help 1,000 people. And in the short term, I want to be able to help at least 100 people make $10,000 a month, and that's my short-term goal. Physical, so for right now, my long-term goal has always been to get to 180 pounds at 10% body fat. But within the short period amount of time, within the next 2 to 3 months, my goal is to be dropping down to about 150 pounds, right? Because I kind of grew up to about 170 and got a little bit out of shape during this whole dilemma, but getting my life back in shape right now. We're actually down a couple pounds, so we're in the right direction already. This year's focus for my skill set is to learn how to create viral content. I'm sure if you're watching this, I love you. I don't expect this to go crazy at all, but I'm definitely developing a lot into the brand and developing a lot into trying to get more reach organically, because I don't want to build my business solely off of paid ads, and I want to build a great name for myself. My spiritual journey right now is to run a small Bible group. That's like one of my big goals. And then I want to tithe consistently 10%. I've been doing that as of recently, so I'm really proud of that. And then, yeah, just be able to run a small group and grow closer with God and be a leader, a spiritual leader, right? My romantic life in the short term right now is to get married. And so the first step here is to get engaged, and eventually I want to have 3 kids around the time that I'm 30. My wealth, well, this year probably put away about 100 G's in the bank. Kind of rebuild all the stuff that I had, to go through. And then the true long-term goal here, like me getting out of the info product space and like being in this digital marketing person for a while, is to actually have 5 paid off rental properties, which will be $2 million in total paid off assets by the time I'm 30. So I'm not really, that's just one of the things so you guys can know about it. And then in terms of my relationships, I still need to retire my mom and to move her out. I've obviously been paying her every single month and just helping her out around the house, but I really want her to be truly retired, not working at all, and being able to just not work at all. So anyways, that's kind of the direction that I'm heading into in the short term. In the meantime, I'm going to build my business back up to about $50,000 a month. My goal is to be documenting and posting every single Monday, so that you guys can tune in and watch and see the progress that I'm making, what I'm putting into the program, and what I'm working on specifically. And in the short term, actually being able to go ahead and hit 150 pounds over the next 2 to 3 months, just so I can lean back down and get pretty fit. But anyways, I mean, this whole series is Living Life by Design. It is basically a build in public type of style. You're gonna see me actually just go through the motions and see me build a business from scratch again, which is pretty fun in my opinion. But thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking by. I truly hope to be able to pour into your life and show you what it's like to be an entrepreneur in this era that's kind of crazy, where you can make money out of thin air. But if you like this type of content and you like the vibe, like, comment, subscribe, be a part of the channel. I'm trying to develop a really deep relationship with our community, so I would love for you to be a part of it. But thank you for watching this entire video. I'll catch you in another one. Peace.